I need a vacation. I'm going to Decatur where it's greater. See if I can stack me up some paper. I need a vacation. Welcome back. And just like that, we are back. I'm sorry I left you for a few days, but you know, your boy had to go and get some sun and everything on one of them little Carnival cruise lines. And we're going to talk about that later on during the week. But for today, just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Hope you like the new background. You know, somebody actually called me, which I thought in the comments was a funny thing, when I used to have the background with England in it, or whatever it was, and said, hey, you know, somebody commented and said, hey, what are you, a black Caucasian? So that was kind of funny. And on top of that, since we're in America, we want to represent, so I'm literally going to have the city behind me. That's City Hall, just for people who aren't from Philly. But anyway, so just want to do a couple quick housekeeping things. First of all, we want to thank some new subscribers. Anybody who subscribed new, I really appreciate it. And, you know, we're going to keep doing our thing. Also, these people, because they personally subscribed, D and Erica, Taisha, Sean, Gene, and T. And, you know, if I left anybody out, if you watch it, you can actually comment on the thing. Last thing before we get into the thing about Jimmy Kimmel, I want to say is we are having we're going to have two $50 giveaways. The one is going to start this week. It's going to be, we're going to announce it on Saturday or maybe on Monday after the Saturday's pod, because it's going to be for people, not just people who subscribe, but people who actually watch. And only thing you got to do to be entered to win it, the $50 this week, is that all you need to do, you have to go, because we're going to do a video today, at least one, sometimes it could be two, but whatever videos from today on till Saturday, all you have to do is make a comment, and you also have to be subscribed. So I'll check to make sure that the commenter is subscribed also. So those are the only two requirements. You got to be subscribed and you got to comment. And then what I'll do is that whether Saturday or Monday, one of those days, I'll put all of the people who commented, we'll put it in a hat. We'll do it right here. And then we'll pick out whoever is going to be the recipient of our first $50. But enough of that. The First Amendment, freedom of speech, religious beliefs, different things. That was in the Bill of Rights, 1791, I believe. And just like with anything, most things are subject to different people's interpretation. So, say, for instance, somebody might say, well, it's freedom of speech, like how we talk about the N-word and how divisive, and how that's probably the most demeaning, divisive word in American English language is that word, because it immediately causes problems and causes a feeling of distrust and displacement, and people feeling as though they don't belong. So it's words that we want to try to stay away from, or a word that we want to try to stay away from. So although you have free speech, there are parameters on this freedom of speech. So, and because I don't want to get copyright stricken, you can go check it out what Jimmy Kimmel said on his show last week, a week prior, about the whole Charlie Kirk situation, and how the MAGA wing of the Republican Party with Donald Trump has spent the whole that weekend after his passing blaming it on basically the left, saying you know, the rhetoric that they spewed and all of this other kind of stuff, as opposed to taking any accountability for themselves, which is a lot of people in America, in the world, where things happen and people don't want to take accountability. And and once again, as the divisive president that he is, as soon as ABC put him on hiatus or indefinitely suspended his show, he got on his Truth Social account, what I want people to start looking at and just checking out some of the crazy stuff they say on there. So on his Truth Social account, he posted basically, good. It's about time they got rid of him because his ratings are falling anyway. Now, a big part of the issue is that Blair, his the guy who runs the FCC, who was put in place by Trump, basically said, like, you know, you'll either learn the easy way or the hard way. Kind of like, I guess they're running like a mob dictatorship type of thing in the administration, which I think most people find to be true. I don't think that those are leftist viewpoints, but your actions, as we always talk about, your actions mean more a lot of times than what you say. Because people could talk a bunch of gibberish, but when they're actually in a position to now make people lose their jobs, lay people off, fire people, doing just the most to people when they didn't necessarily have to do it, and not treating people as good, decent people. So so he made that comment, and from what reports are saying, different outlets are saying is that the bosses at ABC went to Kimmel and said, "Hey, listen, can you offer an apology, or can you kind of dial it back and just kind of stay away from that, because right now it's a hotbed thing." Because what I also didn't know, and I did some research, that I believe it was a defamation suit that Trump had already sued ABC and won $16 million either earlier this year or last year. So he's already won money from them. Once again, these are things that are unprecedented from a sitting president. But all of these things that are unprecedented, the people on the left, they're just crazy. They're just talking. It's just they always want to blame something on somebody else. Now, the one thing I will give to them is I'm going to pull it full circle for you, but I like for you to know some of the context and some of the stuff just from a regular person's point of view looking at it. I'm not a journalist, just like maybe how you would look at it and say, well, it's not that big of a thing. So another thing that Donald Trump said was, hey, it's about time they pulled, Kimmel off, because, the ratings were getting low. And I think he only averages maybe either between 1.1 and 1.7 million viewers a night. But the one big thing that a lot of times, a lot of these Republicans make, and a lot of these people like the Trumpies, the people, and the reason why I say that, because I'm sure that there are great Republicans out there who don't subscribe to the kind of things that he talks about and the kind of actions that he takes on a lot of different issues, but they happen to be Republican. So here's the deal. Yes, you can say that maybe his ratings from a decade ago has fallen off or have gotten lower. But check this out. All traditional network television is going through the same thing. All of them are facing a long list of layoffs possibly and cancellations, because people have a million different outlets. You got Hulu, you got what's the other one? Netflix, you got Amazon Prime, you have Disney Plus, you got BET Plus. I don't know if anybody watches, but you got all of these pluses. You got Peacock, which is an extension of NBC/Comcast. So the public, you got YouTube. You can sit here and watch me, talk to me. So you have a lot of different outlets that people, because think about it, there's only a certain amount of time in a day. It's only a certain amount of time in a day, and that people want to focus on whatever they want to focus on. So watching traditional network TV just may not be the thing for them anymore. Because a lot of us, even me, only time I watch network television is if they have a football game or basketball game or baseball game on network television that I want to watch. Like, I barely watch the news. Sometimes I'll watch a news clip on YouTube. Even ESPN First Take, I used to watch it all the time. I used to try to make sure I dedicated days I was off, that 2 hours a day, just to be locked in, loaded in, watching that on cable. I don't even have cable anymore. So you have a lot of homes that have gone through a transition, and a lot of people who they just want to kind of hone on to what they want to see in certain things. They're not held captive to what ABC, NBC, and CBS have in store for them. And waiting, and then having had to go through a long line of commercials, and then you got to kind of try to stay up. So we understand that television, the way we used to see it growing up, is drastically changed. And for lack of better words, has become more of a dinosaur-esque type of deal, where people are not sitting up waiting to watch news. Watch a late show after the news. Like, at this point, most people that are still living, a lot of people don't even know who Johnny Carson is. A lot of people may not even know who David Letterman is. Shout out to Ray, used to love David Letterman, one of the only people that really love David Letterman, but I guess he got his humor. But a lot of us do not watch and have not watched that kind of stuff. And even when we did watch it, we were younger and we were forced to watch it because mom or dad or grandmom or somebody used to watch Johnny Carson or Jay Leno. So a lot of people didn't even want to watch it then. But but you still have a grouping of people that still want to watch it. Hey, look, shoot, almost 2 million people each night watching it. That's great. Even 1 million people in these days and times, late night watching it is great. So they suspended him for what they said, for what he said in correlation to Charlie Kirk. And there's been a lot of that kind of stuff going on lately. And one thing, I was watching Piers Morgan the other day, and you know, although he's definitely a right-leaning guy, he claims at one point he was a liberal, but he also explained how he got canceled and fired off of the BBC for some stuff that you know, people made it seem like he was a racist during the Meghan Markle deal, which in essence at that time, which was a hot button issue as far as the way the people in England were treating Meghan Markle and talking about the way she looked and all that other kind of stuff. So people didn't come right out and say that they were mad that he married someone who was black. But they didn't also, a lot of times, didn't come out and say and stand up for her either. So he was, I believe from what he said, let go from the BBC years ago because of the whole Meghan Markle situation. So he also doesn't like the whole woke or cancel culture. So he had on Bill O'Reilly. And Bill O'Reilly, the one point I did take away from what Bill O'Reilly said, and he said he was good friends with Jimmy Kimmel. He said, but the problem with Jimmy Kimmel is, and a lot of the news networks, because a lot of them are liberal leaning, left leaning. So they would never have anybody of any interest on there that went to the other side, you know, to debate. And it was always like an assassination on Donald Trump or other Republicans. Now, if you watched it for long enough, even with Jimmy Kimmel, yes, you can obviously tell he's riding more with the Democratic side, and he doesn't necessarily care for people like Trump. But even with that's not, to me, a reason to cancel his show. Thank God he's coming back tonight, but that was no reason to cancel the show. That was not a reason to, and they're saying there's a whole bunch of other stuff behind the scenes, that ABC was looking for a huge merger, all this other, so they don't want to rock the boat, and they want the FCC and the government to smooth things over so the deal can go through the government. And like I talked about that before, there's a lot of that going on. You have people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, people who typically were liberal leaning and supportive, now in bed with Trump because they understand, like I've talked about before, when the bully has the power, a lot of people are going to ride with the bully. A lot of people are going to go with the person who they feel as though, hey, you know what I'm saying, has the big kahunas, and he can say, hey, look, you know, you're going to either do it my way, or because since I'm in power, I'm going to make sure it gets done my way. Almost like a dictator. But see, people on the right don't like when you say this kind of stuff about this possibly being like a dictatorship or a dictator's regime. People don't like that. But everything in its being shows that these are the types of things in history that have shown that this is what dictators do. And the thing is that I know for me, the reason why the way I look at Republicans is a lot different at times, because it's almost like it gives you a feeling, even as poor as some of them can be, they still have this elitist attitude that it's about our country, taking our country back, when you weren't even the ones that founded the country, and where people who have black skin have built this country, but still get zero to no recognition and definitely no reparations for building most of this thing off of the backs of free labor. And these are the kinds of things that I get people to see. Yeah, you know, Jimmy Kimmel, he'll be all right. He's rich. Right? I think he makes $16 million a year. He's been doing it for a long time. But he still should even be protected from certain foolishness that this regime has going on. Because what are they doing? They're just telling people, hey, look, you don't play ball with us, you're out of here. You're done. I don't remember liberal administrations being this way. And that's why I always get back down to it. And, you know, you can put in the comments for people that disagree, but I just don't see this coming out of the other side. It's just one-sided. And, you know, the reason why I like to give my commentary on things like this is because I know a lot of times it's sexier to do the other things like, oh, Cardi B is pregnant. And I would talk about that at some point this week, probably also. But we have to be more in tune as to what's going on as far as the seriousness of some things that happen. Because even though people feel like they only have one vote, a lot of this stuff will eventually trickle down to you. It may trickle down and affect your kids and your grandkids. And so by the time you get a certain age, you can't just walk around like this and say, hey, because although you may not have direct power or privilege or influence to change it, you have enough to be able to give to other people, younger people, even people that are your age that may be a little bit ignorant on certain facts, to give them the knowledge so that they are in the know. Like I hear a lot of times people say, I stay away from politics. I don't deal with politics. I don't such and such and such. Well, hey, when you start getting a regime like this, you better pay attention to something. People have no more right to be able to walk around with their eyes wide shut, peeking through. You need to know. I need to know. That's why I'll sit up and do hours and hours and hours of research about this certain stuff just to give you 10 or 15 minutes of something that I think that I know and what I don't know. That's why I tell you, go to YouTube, go to MSN, go to Google, search it, do it your own self, because you know what? We need to know what's going on. Because there's some people out there that just refuse to vote. And I get it. Everybody's not going to get involved and do marches and stuff like that. Heck, neither am I. I don't like marching either. But I'm definitely not going to sit back on the sidelines and say, no, dog, I don't vote because, you know, my vote don't mean nothing. They already got the election rigged anyway. Well, you know what? Then don't say nothing. Don't say a word. Because, see, there's different ways to get involved in making a better community. Just like even with all of this whole stuff going on. A young man, 31 years old, whether I agree with him or not, got shot by a guy with a high-power rifle from 200 yards away. Really, that's what we still doing here? Guys still going into schools, shooting schools up, churches. Is that what we doing here? But the Republican Party never wants to denounce the National Rifle Association, what they're doing. So even me talking about it is just like basically talking to the wind. But then you always got these other people who want to come in and talk about the violence in black communities. What do you know about violence in black communities? How do you even know that they start? And I guarantee you this, ain't nobody around doing with no 50 calibers and no rifles. At least I hope not. Sitting waiting to pick somebody off. Because if you think about it, that would be the easier thing instead of just walking right up on them. But we typically don't grow up like that. That's kind of like not what we do. So Jimmy Kimmel's going to be back tonight. We'll see if he got tamed or if they're going to, because they claim that they pulled him also because he was refusing to apologize. And some of the affiliates, like in Utah and some of these other places that are MAGA heavy, refused to show it, or they claim that they were losing viewership and advertisement. So that's the reason why they pulled it. But we'll see. I don't want to keep going on longer than this because guess what? We just got back. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. But I'm thinking to myself, when we do talk about it, remember, live life. Don't let life live you.